Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon, and welcome back. It is going to be another great day, not just because of the promise of this afternoon, but what tomorrow brings, but the here and the now. Honored to have the opportunity to speak to our good friends from Cayman Enterprise City as we invite you to be a part of a discussion. Right after the headline news at 1, we get a chance to chat with, and about the Proud of Them program. And then 1:30, I don't know, it just might be Susan and myself, or is it me and Susan? Who knows? Well, that's your assignment. What is the grammatically correct thing to say? Susan and me and Susan, or just the two of us? All right, stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And truly is a pleasure I honestly feel honored to sit in the studio. This may not be the most comfortable of chairs, this might not be the most beautiful room, but boy, the people who are assembled here who happen behind the scenes to make it all come together are indeed the most beautiful. Well, with that, we welcome Mr. Charlie Kirkconnell from Cayman Enterprise City. And Charlie, is always a pleasure, and I say this publicly, and hopefully, I share it with you sometimes privately. You, your team, your investment, not just the treasure, but the talent, the time, the commitment. They can sow in good seed, and it's going to bode well for Cayman, but for the region as well. So, good afternoon. Hope that you had a wonderful, enjoyable, peaceful, long weekend.
It was good. Pleasure to be here.
All right. And he's brought along, his marketing and public engagement manager, Ms. Bianca Mora. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
All right. And I wanted to, make the acquaintance of a young man. You look at him, you can see, good genes running the family. He's handsome, Matthew Elphinstone. Pleasure to meet you, man. Welcome to you.
Thank you for having me.
All right. They say too much is given, much is required. And some people, perhaps take it in a particular vein. But whether you're a good coach and you see the prospect of an excellent player, whether it's tennis, whether it's football, whether it's a swimmer, otherwise, you bring that person along. If you're a business, likewise, you provide opportunities for people that they may not get into the industry, but that mentoring, that opportunity for, job shadowing, internship is crucial for that individual's development. But for if you want to see the global picture, the human race, that's how we learn, right? You don't learn to cook because you were in the kitchen and nobody showed you something. At some point in time, you see it. So, as we talk about the internship program at Cayman Enterprise City, Charlie, promise with you, the significance of it is obvious, but share with us.
Okay. Well, the internship program, which Bianca will speak more in depth about, and Matthew will provide some, some of his practical experience or his actual experience with the program. It's part of our Enterprise Cayman initiative, which is very, very very important part of what we do. And to first start by, what is it? And I'm going to read this because it's a little bit of a mission statement, but I'll just go ahead and read it. But the Enterprise Cayman initiative is aimed at making Caymanians aware of career and entrepreneurial opportunities being created by the CEC project, assisting them in getting the training and experience required to pursue those opportunities, and then ultimately connecting them with entrepreneurial and the career opportunities within the SEZ. So, it's all, that covers a lot of ground. So it's broader than just, internships and mentorships. But those are very, very critical parts to the Enterprise Cayman initiative, which ultimately, what we see the importance of the overall initiative is it for it to be a driver for the development of local talent, and to help through that provide that the proverbial diversification of the economy away from just such a heavy reliance on financial services and tourism.
That's the thing, that it's not just to add another pillar or leg to the economy, but for the opportunity for our people to gain a perspective that they may only feel is available if they were in a big city somewhere else, right? Before we ask Matthew to jump in, perhaps Bianca, you can help us to get a better appreciation of what we're talking about. You see it firsthand, right?
Yeah. I guess we're back again promoting our internship program. It's now in its 9th year in a row. And we are very excited. This year is a bit different than the rest. We are offering internship placements throughout the year, as opposed to it used to only be during the summertime. So this is quite important, as I know there are some current students that do need to do work experience to be able to graduate with their degree. So this is something new that we're offering. So if you're one of those students, do apply. The applications are now online at enterprisecayman.ky. And we are placing internships throughout the whole year. So not just summertime, but whenever you were ready to take that work experience.
Perfect. And I sort of want to ask you more about application process and the like, but if it's okay with both of you, perhaps Matthew, invite you into the discussion. Yep. Draw close, bring your handsome face closer to the mic as you wish. Tell us about it. I've got a bunch of questions I may want to ask you, but initially, what do you want to share with us about the program?
It's a good opportunity to develop skills that you're interested in. There's a wide range of topics, from biomedical to artificial intelligence, and it's a good opportunity for the people that are wanting to pursue STEM careers.
What are your interests initially? Are they still the same today?
I did school for mechanical engineering, and mostly I'm interested in design of robotics and using them to solve problems that.
Cool. I have a bunch you want to say. Just kidding. And with that, and understanding just a little bit of you from a distance, right?
Yeah.
That sort of study probably for a lot of people would mean that they're not quite sure Cayman would be their place.
Yeah, that's totally true. What is good about mechanical engineering is that it is considered, I guess, the jack of all trade engineering branch, because it does do stuff from like AC design to fluids, so talking about like currents in like making maybe tidal blocks or something like that, or even to just designs of like structures. So it's one of that you specialize in a lot of things, or you are in a lot of different areas, but you want to like obviously find your interest, and mine is definitely with robotics at the opportunity right now. And I think it's just Cayman is a place that's just growing in the amount of people coming down here, and there seems to be always opportunities.
Yeah, and I can see the benefit of being based here. But Charlie, with the perspective of having Cayman Enterprise City as a hub, as a nurturing pot, as it were, people can be housed there, but they can easily be connected globally. They can travel to research facilities, to manufacturing facilities in short order, but with the comfort, the convenience, the safety, the security, the stability, and infrastructure that you provide.
Yeah, well, that makes me think of two things. One being the accessibility for young Caymanians who are interested in internships and careers in certain fields. Where, for example, and we talked about this with Matthew and with many of the others, another guy, Aaron Santamaria, who now works with Brave Software. And the idea that you might be able to, get the attention of someone doing things like, developing neural networks or designing a web browser. In a small place, you can actually make those connections. You can actually gain the internships where, if you're in Toronto, if you're in San Francisco or somewhere like that, you might be one of thousands of people, trying to make a connection, and then ultimately to compete with to gain the internship. So. One of the things I would say to young Caymanians would be to take advantage of that. You can reach out to people and make a personal connection, and that can lead to some really, really, really good opportunities. The other point that you were making as well relates to the global, how most of our clients are significant global companies. And what you might be doing here might be part of what the global organization is doing, and you might find opportunities beyond perhaps what is just happening right here in Cayman. And a good example of that is speaking with a friend last week whose son. And this happened completely by accident. Just and the way things happen in Cayman, you start talking. How's your son doing? What's going on and all that. Turns out that his son, and again, I got to read this because this is not something that I know things about. But his son has experience in cancer research using maximum depth sequencing. Aimed at developing new cancer detection techniques targeting hard to access tissues such as the pancreas. Okay, so that was what he told me. I managed to kind of pair that up with one of our companies that does, and I'm going to read again, clinical stage biotechnology, discovering and developing chimeric antigen receptor T-cell products for solid tumors. So there's a connection there, and now those two are in touch. He's in touch with the company. He's looking at doing an internship here in Cayman, and then to your point, maybe spending some time in their lab in West Palm Beach. So these are the way things happen, and these are the opportunities that are being presented.
And I appreciate you sharing that because I didn't know. I mean, that was strange enough. Some of my light reading last evening on T cells and cancer research. And
you can explain it to me.
No. That struck me. I thought, okay, I know this is in English, but that's about all. And I read it through. Right? But then it got me to thinking exactly what you were sharing. You're here, and then you can be elsewhere at the same time through the connectivity, what it offers. And this is, for me, the global picture. Now, whether that takes, the next generation, or whether it's something that we can benefit from. Maybe after the break, we have an opportunity to share more. Ms. Bianca, I invite you to tell us more about how, not just the internship program works. Remind us again that it's open all year round to fit in with, the prospective interns' schedules and the like. And then Matthew, if it's okay, take us through, briefly what your day looks like. I mean, for me, I get up, I do my hair. Oh, sorry, you probably do stuff, right? So give us a perspective, that's fine. All right, to our listeners, not just to parents, but if you're a student who probably needed a Sunday today, well, and you're home and you're listening, well, here's the opportunity for you. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
King Sports Center takes pride in being more than just an ordinary gymnasium. For 14 years, their multi-purpose facility has been providing the community with a variety of sporting, recreational, and relaxation activities. King Sports Center has a bowling alley, lounge bar, multi-purpose rooms, powerhouse gym, rock climbing wall, bungee jumping, a 10,000 square foot rink, and so much more. For more information on the variety of services, call their friendly staff today at 946-5464 or email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
Dig deep and give from the heart. Your loose change may not seem like much right now, but we know that it can add up to a lot once we put all together. Last year, the Meals on Wheels Change for Change coin drive had to be cancelled due to the pandemic. But we did not stop providing nutritious hot meals to some of the most vulnerable members of our country, our seniors. Now we need your help to continue to meet the increased demands. We seek your generous donations once again as we aim to continue to serve over 300 meals per day. Please gather up your loose change, fold up your paper money or checks, empty your coin jar and donate whatever amount when you see the Meals on Wheels volunteers stationed around Grand Cayman on January 29th and 30th. Join Cayman Islands Meals on Wheels, Davenport Development and Radio Cayman in the fight to end senior hunger in the Cayman Islands. Visit www.mealsonwheels.ky or call 769-1974 to learn more.
Now you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere.
Everywhere.
Can you hear me now? Everywhere. Everywhere.
Yes, right from your Android or iPhone. Download the Radio Cayman app now on your Android or iOS phone.
The Radio Cayman app
is where you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere you go.
Everywhere we go, we go. Everywhere we go, we go.
Find it in the Google Store, the Apple Store, or use the link at www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Yes, now you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks again for joining us as we have a chance to continue, the wonderful work. And as we look at Cayman Enterprise City, the CEO, Mr. Charlie Kirkconnell, the Marketing and Public Engagement Manager, Mr. Bianca Mora, and one of their interns, Mr. Matthew Elphinstone. Charlie, as we were going through the break and you were reminding us of the opportunities that can exist, I think sometimes we don't appreciate it as parents as much as, the child is now gone through university, probably working towards her PhD even, and been away, but we always thought they're going to have to leave Cayman in order to pursue it. Well, we don't want that. Now, if potentially they could be splitting their time between many jurisdictions but be based here, it's a sense of relief, safety that you're not that far away. This to me goes beyond so much more, but it gives that connection. So kudos, man.
Well, thank you.
If I then could ask, unless you wanted to, get into this, Bianca, as you talked about the various internship programs and the opportunities that are available, remind us, please, of the application process, the timing, how long the internships could last, as much as you want to share.
So applications are now open, and it is on our enterprisecayman.ky website. And they run for 1 to 3 months. And again, it's not just during the summer months, but just now throughout the whole year. You have to be Caymanian aged 18 to 25 to apply. And the application process is probably, if you sit down, it will take you around 30 minutes to answer everything. What do you think?
Yes. I mean, I guess if you're talking about building your resume and stuff like that, then it would be more, but I'd say the form was 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, if you have your cover letter and CV already created, then it should be around 20 minutes. So definitely I would suggest everyone to apply. We do have a deadline for it, and it's April 1st, 2021. And that is just so we are able, we usually get around 50 to 80 applicants. So it's just so we're able to filter through and make sure we're able to place as many as possible.
Wow. Hey, Charlie, these opportunities were available, when we were, who knows, I may became a talk show host. Sorry. Matthew, if we could maybe ask of you, because sometimes internships, job experience, even though we may think the words are synonymous, sometimes they're not. Sometimes we got perspective of, and sometimes we just have a mistaken, concept of what it's like. Share with us.
Yeah. So I worked at a web-based machine learning company called NeuralStudio.ai. And the main project that I was doing was one that I pitched during my interview, actually. designing and creating a lionfish smart trap that could take the lionfish out of the environment and hopefully making better and more sustainable reefs. So most of it was in the software development. As their software company, that's what their bread and butter is. And for the most part, it was very like independent to be working. I'd only see him or my boss to ask for questions and just seeing how to interface with the code that they've already created. For me being a mechanical engineer, it was really interesting because like I knew how to program to the extent of moving a bot left, right, or simple mechanical stuff. But it was really interesting to see how you would develop and ship, as they would call it, a product, and making basically Internet of Things product was quite interesting to see the process of doing it quickly and maybe on doing it quickly and breaking things, I guess is the phrase, on stuff that's easier to program, and then going for more complicated programming to make it go faster.
Did you ever get to the stage where you have a product, or even like?
So yeah, we had a certain product. It was called the Lionfish Recognizer. All it was a cam. It was proof of concept, I would say. Yeah. It was a camera that was attached to a single board computer, and I put this in this like one of those plastic waterproof cases and took it diving, and it was able. And if you pressed a button on it, it would take photo of the fish, and then it would say whether it was a lionfish or not.
So you're using it to recognize the...
Yeah, so that would be the first step of just like... And it's quite difficult, that area of like actually recognizing it and stuff, because, you don't want to get false positive when you don't want to start destroying other fish, right? Yeah. So the main focus was on that. We got to the phase of designing the trap, and it was going to be using pneumatics and just common PVC parts that you could get from A.L. Thompson.
I can picture something now.
But we didn't get any.
So no prototype,
than that.
No working prototype.
No working prototype of the smart trap.
Huh.
But yeah.
But Charlie, here is something that perhaps may have been either only possible, one, in a university setting, you're working on a science project for whatever way, or two, you're probably a grad student doing research at some larger facility. But this right thing came on. I mean, in the backyard, you get to go up by the reef, get paid, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Wow. So only to 24. I mean, I could pass for 24. Let me see.
Jeez, I'm just worried about you getting in the water with Matthew, and then his recognizer thinks you're a lionfish.
Yeah.
And then what happens to you?
And I mean, wore red today, so if it's red, it's dead. I mean,
don't stick your arm in the trap or anything. This is why the recognizing part is the most important part.
So was it then that if again, only because conceptually I was thinking on one hand, going back to I just used fish pots as we know, and then the implementation of the Z traps, which were thankfully banned to an extent. Or fish pots that we had was a funnel. The big fish would go in and remain. The smaller fish would be able to find its way out.
Yeah.
For you, you're looking at bringing this thing in and dealing with it then and there.
Yeah, it was going to be basically envision like a large PVC T, and then it'd have two gates, and below would be like a bucket for like the captured bait, and then it would go in and close the doors on it. And then it was probably going to be using electrodes for it, and then it would open a trap door and it would fall in. So that the key would be to just keeping it like trying to get one fish in at a time, and being able to have enough time to like actually recognize it and maybe do it a couple times to make sure it's right. And
then the cull aspect would come when the human interface with it.
Yeah, they'd probably would have to dive down and take the bait out. And there was going to be a buoy that would be communication saying like, you've got mail.
Yeah. I mean, see, this is where the genius of the robotic engineer coming in. I was just thinking, those days the guy did missiles, just taking this. No, and I thank you for sharing that. And the reason why is that here is something fascinating for an individual here in Cayman to get the opportunity to do it and to see the practical application of it, the corresponding benefit to, in this case, to our reefs. But that's just like, the whole program that CEC is offering for the economy, for the student, for that prospective entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm. It's a knowledge transfer that that helps to design products that fix real world problems, and some of them specific. In the case of the lionfish, that would be something obviously very specific to Cayman.
Yeah. Now, Bianca, when we think of your the opportunity the internship program is offering for our students, despite the sort of the age requirements, this is when we're young, engaged, enthusiastic. We're thinking of potential careers. It's a time frame that helps us to guide where we want to go. A 20-minute, half-an-hour application process. That's really anything. I mean, I could take more to the bottom of my brain some mornings,
Yeah. No, exactly. And like as Charlie and Matthew have mentioned, it could connect you to some incredible companies, and not just the interns that we've spoken about now, but we also have Alyssa Ebanks that was our 2020 intern, and she is now working with Zone company member Alan Evans, and they're working together to do architectural renderings using virtual reality and building that as a product for Cayman to use. So that's like it's these things that you could not only grow within the company that you interned with, get hired and grow, or start to create your own company and go the entrepreneurship way. So this 20-minute application could lead you to your next your job, essentially, your future.
This is it. And I think too many times we ignore what is here. And thankfully, if I may say, the younger people like yourselves now see the opportunities. We used to dream about them, Charlie, but we always were limited to some extent. The world is their oyster, or their lionfish cull. Or all right. After the break, could we invite you to share more with us relative to Cayman Empire City, maybe some other things on the horizon, other prospects for people, and if possible, what does someone say? Sounds fascinating. I wonder if I could be an employee. Are there opportunities to work within, some of the SEZs and the like? All right. Cayman Empire City is an investment for many of us and for the economy. So as we continue with the discussion after, we invite you to rejoin us.
Maintaining a strong mind and body through sports and general healthy living is a good course of action. But what about your spiritual man, your inner man? He has to be awakened, fed, exercised, strengthened, and led according to the will of God. So, have you heard the call? I'm evangelist Brother Joseph Joey Ebanks, and I'm inviting you to worship Wednesday and Thursday nights at 7:30. We are bringing the Word of God to our communities as Jesus commanded. Faith comes by hearing. So come and hear. Bring your own chair or simply park and listen to the Word of God from your vehicle, covering the Cayman Islands with the Word of God, one community at a time.
Have you heard the call? We'll be at Kennedy Drive in the swamp next to number 15 on January 27th and 28th at 7:30 p.m.
Your Radio Cayman 6 p.m. news, Monday through Friday, is brought to you by Logic, your life connected.
This is how we wake you up in the morning.
Beautiful
Praise time on Radio Cayman.
Are you ready? Here we go. Set. I feel like running, skip it, run it. Feel like skip it.
Praise time.
Jesus in the morning. I will. So send me, Lord. I will go. Born again. Thank God I'm born again.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks so much for joining us. And it's discussions like these that spark not just the connections that get the mind to realize how important it is to think, and not just to be pensive in your thoughts, but to be productive and to be conscious and considerate. We're very grateful to Mr. Charlie Coconut for spending some time with us, for Bianca Mora, and for equally, for them bringing along one of their interns, Matthew Elphinstone. As I look at this and I think of certain places in the world that are synonymous with certain things. You think of design and technology, you think of one place. You think of fashion, you think of one place. You think of different things, and it would be nice if, when we look at Cayman, yes, the wonderful, warm, welcoming hospitality that is, the Cayman Islands would be great. The safety, security, and stability, political, economically, and socially would be great. But what about things like technology and entrepreneurship and Charlie? Wouldn't that be great as well? We can't have chocolate, at least we can have other good stuff.
Well, yeah, and it's one of a quote that one of our clients once said, that kind of hadn't really thought of it in those terms before, but technology doesn't need square footage. So the idea that a small place like Cayman can be a global player in the technology space is not so far-fetched, and in fact is certainly achievable. And we feel like a lot of what is happening here, a lot of what we've managed to accomplish over together with the whole community over the last 9 years, is an excellent excellent foundation for great things in the future.
I mean, without understanding technology, without watching a lot of sci-fi or even reading some of the things, think of it, just as you said, that company or those individuals, let's say they were physically based there and they're designing something, and through the use of technology, the manufacturing plant is in some other part of the world for different reasons. Maybe they got a larger footprint to build a facility, but the information is being transmitted out. The expertise is here. How can you lose? We have the banking and the financial services that are doing the same thing in that vein. Right, Matthew? I mean, it can work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think anything's possible. And definitely like the intellectual parts of it, including the designing, the coding and stuff can be done in any place of the world. I guess like there are small areas that do have tech, I guess, presence and superiority. The one that comes to mind is like Tel Aviv, and like there is definitely it's possible to do it if there's the motivation for it.
Yeah. But you referenced Tel Aviv, for instance, and the whole approach that Israel may have relative to its education. It comes back to, for maybe an all-encompassing word, infrastructure. If we start early, if we start teaching our children and introducing them to STEM, they start to code. It doesn't matter that the motivation may be similar to what they have there in relation to, border protection and the like. But just like we found out, our seafarers and had still enjoy an incredible reputation. It could become the same with tech, with knowledge.
Yeah, and that's kind of going back to what I said at the beginning, a description of the Enterprise Cayman initiative. It starts with making Caymanians aware of the opportunities that are being created. And while not everybody is going to decide that they want a career in a STEM field, where we talked about a little bit when we were younger, the idea that you might pursue a career in STEM in the Cayman Islands was a little bit, I wouldn't say far-fetched, but it wasn't perhaps quite as obvious as it is today. And so for people to become aware of what the opportunities are, then puts them in a position to make the types of choices to pursue a career that they might have otherwise written off at an earlier age.
And that's just the thing that it makes it challenging for all of us. We would write it off because of the imposed limitations, perhaps because of our own sort of exposure. Oh, well, that's too far-fetched. But if you're limited by your imagination.
Yeah, I mean, like the sectors of tomorrow, of what I guess kids in school are in Cayman are going to be in is yet to be determined. And we know there's going to have to be some sort of green jobs sector of some sort. We've been putting carbon into the atmosphere for years, and we have to have a way of getting it out. So, it's starting to be conceptualized what those economies are going to be, but it's still quite uncertain. So, just getting basic skills that are applicable to multiple different sectors is going to be very important.
I think too, Charlie, from that perspective, not to veer too far into the path of sort of public policy, but if we're driving that train to an extent, and we're looking at our communities, not just our economies, but we're looking at how people live and work, at how we're schooled and educated, Cayman could be that place that is not just a frontier land, but entrepreneurship, the notion that we are sort of the example of what could be if the approach is a collective one. I mean, there's a vision. This has to be, not just a passion, but a strong will to achieve it.
Well, you just hit on something that we find to be very important there, which is, in order for any of this to happen, it can't happen in a vacuum, and it can't happen, where there's a little bit of this over here and a little bit of that over there. We've recognized that there needs to be a community. And that becomes in and of itself a draw for global companies to set up here, and then it needs to be a place where companies can see themselves and see themselves being successful, and it needs to be the type of place where people who are in a particular field. They don't feel like they're off in the wilderness all on their own. They feel like they're part of a community that of like-minded people who might be working on different things but similar. And if they don't get that feeling, then it's probably I'll have a job in the Cayman Islands, but ultimately that's just a job here while I'm here, and ultimately I really belong in a place like Silicon Valley or San Francisco or somewhere like that. But if we develop that community, then it becomes an attraction in and of itself, and then it also leads to become self-reinforcing, where Caymanians want to join. They see themselves joining that community, being part of a vibrant technology development community, and so therefore they then invest in it themselves, and you have to gain the qualifications and the expertise and all that sort of thing. And so it's a work in progress to help develop that community, which will then, but as we've gone on through the years, it's become easier and easier because it is self-reinforcing, and people are seeking out what to them back in 9 years ago was like, well, I'm not really sure I want to bring my tech company to the Cayman Islands.
But it's interconnected too, right, Bianca? Because from the investment of whatever, but it's also the person's time. And let's say that entity has employees who have families. And if they can come, if the infrastructure whether it's the telecoms or whether it's the roads, but it has to be the schools and the healthcare and the social spaces. And as that grows, then it benefits all of them, but it also benefits all of us that are here as well. So you don't need to get on a plane to go to a jazz fest. You don't need to travel somewhere to go see a wonderful park, with sculptures and the like. You can just walk out your door and down the street. That's just a safe, community space to live in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
We, I should know if you guys saw the Loop Cayman article just came out today, that for 2021, we're voted one of the safest places to live, right, like alongside Canada and Australia.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Cayman is, I have to sometimes catch myself because I love it so much, and I can easily get, in a space where I say to people, we work together. It doesn't matter if we're here, like some of us with generations, or we're only here for a short time so far. But if we're here, we work to make it better, because it'll be better while we're here, and that may extend for generations down the road, or it may only be for a season. It's just amazing, right, Matthew?
Yeah.
Man, I can just feel. But as we invite you to always return and encourage us, not just through your commitment to the economy, your incredible investment in what we have here, but it could be like many places. Companies will outsource because it's better wherever that is. Well, let's invest here because it is better for all of us. As we close off our discussion, perhaps Matthew, any sort of final thoughts, and then of course Miss Bianca.
Yeah, I think you're totally right about when people from all over come here, it's want to do the best for the island. I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I'm here instead of trying to go somewhere else or applying somewhere else. And we definitely need to protect our talent, and I think the CEC is definitely an opportunity to do that. We develop a lot of bright people here, and a lot of the time they just don't have any opportunities, so they go to the Silicon Valleys of the world. And I think that this is, and other initiatives are going to, prevent that so-called brain drain.
Yeah, that's key. Ms. Bianca?
Yes, I kind of wanted to also add, not only we're here to promote the internship program, but I do want to let people know that if they are above the age of 25, that we do have our Cayman Enterprise City jobs portal, and there's actually quite a bit of jobs right now available for any Caymanians that are interested to apply. I have them right here just to read them out quickly. We have Senior Manager Inbound Marketing, working for Chronix Digital within the Special Economic Zone. We have Finance and Accounting Manager working for Seoul Petroleum, and we have C++ Developer working for 8 Point Technologies. And those are the first three that I just read off. There is more if you go to the jobs portal, which is found on our Cayman Enterprise City website. I just wanted to point that out, that we do have our mentorship program, but we also do have regular jobs that you could all apply to.
Over 25.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're qualified and you're 22, you could also apply.
Charlie, if you can't laugh, man,
Yeah. I wish I didn't have to go to work until I was 25. Anyway, all I'd like to say is just to thank you for having us on. Pleasure to be here. And one last thing, I guess, perhaps, is that if there's anyone out there that's listening that might be interested in offering an internship or serving as a mentor, please get in touch with us also. And it doesn't have to just be in the Special Economic Zone. This program is designed to assist young Caymanians in gaining experience and qualifications generally. So if anybody's out there thinking that they'd like to be a mentor, but they're not sure exactly how to make a connection, or they'd like to take on an intern, they're not exactly sure how to make a connection, we can help with that.
All right. Well, thank you all very much for your time. And again, the congratulations in order, but equally, prayers for continued success as we invest collectively to make this country truly, wonderful place that it is. So have a great week.
Thank you.
And hopefully see you very soon again. All the best, Martha.
All right, thank you.
All right, your listeners, Susan's right there. She probably needs your company. Give her a call, Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have, on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice.
It is in the best interest of the people of these islands.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. The Public Health Department has received notice from the Caribbean Public Health Agency that of a selection of COVID-19 positive samples sent for genomic sequencing just over 2 weeks ago, 3 have come back as being of the British COVID-19 variant. All other variants were ruled out from the samples. In international news, the EU has warned COVID vaccine producers must deliver agreed supplies amid fears reductions could seriously hamper its inoculation drive. AstraZeneca and Pfizer-BioNTech have both said production problems mean they cannot supply the expected numbers. The CEO of a casino company valued at nearly $2 billion has quit after he and his wife were charged with misleading authorities to get a COVID vaccine. They traveled to the remote northern Yukon Territory for the jabs. The region, home to many Indigenous people, has a faster vaccination rate than in the rest of Canada. The couple had posed as motel workers. After criticism that his original goal was not bold enough, U.S. President Joe Biden has said he expects the U.S. will soon be able to vaccinate 1.5 million people a day. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Your voice, your choice, your radio.
Country classics.
One night of love don't make up for 6 nights alone.
No one could steer me right, but Mama tried. Mama tried. You're cheating hard. You load 16 tons. What do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. I'm a honky-tonk man.
Country classics.
She's a good-hearted woman in love with a good time tonight.
On a Sunday morning sidewalk. If you enjoy classic country music, come hang out with Radio Cayman this Saturday, 3:30 to 6 p.m.
I'm so lonesome I could cry. I'd love to wake up in your arms tomorrow, but I'm so afraid of losing you again.
This Saturday afternoon, following American Country Countdown, 3:30 to 6 on Radio Cayman.
Country classics. RC Fusion.
Monday to Thursday.
10 a.m. to 12 p.m.
Fridays.
It's Friday, I'm in love.
Radio Cayman. Biggest variety in the morning. Biggest variety.
RC Fusion.
Following the 10 a.m. news headline. Biggest variety in the morning.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
On a daily basis, making it easy to connect with you, our listeners. Add us to WhatsApp today, 925-3261. That's 925-3261.
Radio Cayman.
Send a text or voice note.
Can I send a request, please?
You don't really have to ask us. Just send a request.
This is a shout out to my ex.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
The Record.
For information that matters to you, the people. Hear from the government, the opposition, independents, and other experts on issues and solutions that affect you.
For the Record.
Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, tune into 89.9 and 93.9 FM from 7:30 to 9 a.m. for Cayman's new Straight Talk Morning Show.
For the Record.
I invite you to join me for the record. You are invited to be a part of this interesting and informative show. Embrace the opportunity to dialogue with your legislators, policymakers, and those charged with policy implementation.
For the Record. Brought to you by
Coca-Cola. Available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga Distributors.
Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us as we invite you to be a part of our discussion. Hey, one thing about live radio, it sure goes on, and we want you to be a part of our discussion. 9498037. For now, until our schedule says otherwise, it have to be some open line, and we want you to share. Hope you had a great weekend. I know that things get lost in translation, and sometimes what is on the schedule, the guests may find it challenging to make it to our studios. So let's have some open line. Perhaps what they say, not every disappointment is a misfortune. It's been a challenging last few days for many of us in many respects, for some of us more so than others. And in that capacity, as we invite you to be a part of a discussion, we give you, a very warm invitation is extended to you to call 949-8037, or you can use the Flow toll-free line at 1-800-534-8255. You can also WhatsApp 925-3261 and share with us as you wish. Now, recognizing the almost constant discussion and information is being shared and exchanged, some timely and informative, some a lot of conjecture and speculative, but nonetheless it's there. So how do you pick sense from nonsense, as they would say? Now we know that through our public health and the health sector, that the British variant of this COVID coronavirus thingamajigger that seems to be rampant everywhere. Well, as Dr. Lee, the CMO, indicated, it's not unexpected and comes as no surprise that it would be found here. And our midday news sort of relayed that for some, which is some other time. Perhaps for others, it's just a very stark reminder that everything, as they were saying from before, perhaps some things that we were taught very early from our parents and even reinforced in the schools, good hygiene, wash your hands, as appropriate, maybe now more so than ever. But maybe for those of us who prepare food and serve food, perhaps those of us who, around children, as teachers and coaches, and those of us that are using spaces that maybe not just our private spaces, maybe a little bit more diligent, a little bit more vigilant, a little bit more consistent in hand washing, for instance, because as the experts tells us, that is just good practice ordinarily, but even more so now in times like these. Please, as disheartening as it may be, as concerning, as fearful as we may become, let's not become despondent, and let's not lose hope, and let's not become so fearful that we fail to appreciate that life goes on and life must be embraced and shared. But let's be, sensible as well as sensitive. Now, your perspective, 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255, or you can WhatsApp 925-3261. How was your long weekend? I think it was a great opportunity. I think sometimes they say necessity is the mother of invention. Perhaps this weekend could be an example of such. Ordinarily, the celebration of our people would have taken place on one day in one place. This weekend, perhaps, even though we may have separated our people physically, they could have, because of technology, leverage it in such a way they could still be connected and involved and informed. And I think it may prove to have been an overwhelming success in that those in the BRAC get the opportunity to be celebrating showcase on the BRAC. The Eastern Districts, I think the Pedro site is one of the most beautiful, picturesque places in this country and probably in this part of the world. But space that could be even more, utilized in a much greater way going forward. And then to have, the center of town on Monday. Now maybe going forward, when we get to a space where we can gather, maybe this sort of process continues and, we keep the contingent on the BRAC and then we take over those from here, go there for, a vacation as we celebrate. We do it in the Eastern Districts as before, but instead of the limitations, then we all go there and we have, thousands, and then we do it again in town. Perhaps it's a challenge for the organizers, but perhaps it would be great, for the prospect of making it work, in a wonderful fashion as it is. Let's go to our phones though. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. Started Dwayne, number one, you Kingston.
Hey, good afternoon, Mr. Dolan, sir. How are you?
I'm trying to live what I'm dying. I had to give you some trouble today.
Listen. In a day that you have the opportunity to call and share with us, always grateful. So I hope you had a great weekend, by the way.
I'll think about it tomorrow, Mick,
Okay, well, you know what? Tomorrow is going to even be a better day.
All right, if you say so, I can hold you to that.
Well, listen, I believe in a number of things, and not just speaking it into being, but being optimistic, being positive. You can still be a realist and recognize that there are many challenges lie ahead, but if you look, with your eyes open and with your heart, willingly to embrace good, you might just see it and find it.
Yeah, well, I just look with my eye open.
Yeah, well, eyes. Yes, sir. Touche. Oh, man,
you couldn't win that case.
I was going to say, you would have been perfectly suited for, one of the hosts of our talk shows, man. I think you would be. Maybe that could be something that you would consider. Let me give you the public invitation. Next year, you and Grand King.
No, I can't do that. I can't do them things, though.
I'll sit with you, man. And then you have absolute license. If someone calls in, you say, and you want to say, you know what, this is a great idea. Or if you want to say, boy, listen, what you been smoking? Try to do. It'd be as you want. How about that?
No, sir. I only wish I didn't go into politics before I went into the medical field. That's my sorrow.
Why is that, sir?
Because I would have loved to have been there.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's just hitting me.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm glad you said that, because I think many people shy away from the political arena because of the perception that it's a horrible place. It's not a space where good people go, or if you're good when you get there, it's like what Mr. Biller would talk about. You can't jump into a cesspool and expect to come out smelling like a rose.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's not really that I didn't think about it, but I just prefer the medical department than done that.
Okay. What would you have if you were in politics? Knowing what you know now, if you knew it then, what were the things that you would have wanted to change then, or you still want to change now?
First thing, I would try to make them get Cayman back going with more business and things. Okay. I would try to get the dock fixed so the boat can come direct here. Mm-hmm. The second thing is this, I would make sure the lines in the road are painted properly so people can see them. They haven't been painted yet, as I called before and spoke, and I'm going to say it again. Paint the lines in the road. They're getting darker. You can't hardly see some of them.
Now, about 2 weeks ago or so that you had called about that, and I was hoping that by the Wednesday of that week that would have happened. Now, no, it hasn't?
No.
Mr. Dolan, you're losing your influence, man.
Well, maybe because they just don't want to listen to you because the time is coming that they're going.
But this is an election year, and you would think that these kind of things would get done snip, snap.
Yeah, maybe the snapper is down there, but the snapper is not here.
Maybe that's only West Bay, though. I mean,
I don't care whether it's West Bay, Eastern, but down north side, where it is.
So what else would you would want to have seen better or different or not happen at all even? Talk to me.
Not happen at all?
Yeah, I mean...
The first thing I would have, right now, or for the last 3-4 months, I would have made sure whenever that British Airways flight is coming to Grand Cayman, make sure everybody's been checked days before. I don't care whether they Caymanians or who, and tell them if they have some problem with this disease, look, you cannot fly that flight until you're better.
So, yeah, I hear you. I mean, that raises a number of concerns and questions. But yeah, okay. So if it's as bad as they say, you want to make sure that it be a little bit more stringent, perhaps a little bit more cautious. Okay, fair enough. A little more restrictive even. All right, what else?
And then when it comes to this disease and about opening up the borders, you got to make sure everybody in the Cayman Islands is inoculated with this thing. This medication, Eskimo, sometimes I just can't get over.
Yeah, they call it a vaccine, but yeah.
Vaccine, yes.
Okay.
Make sure everyone has it that can have it. So that way they cannot come in here. 'Cause anybody can get any paper from anywhere, comes certifying, oh, I got this. You know how things is nowadays. $25 paper here.
You're right. But then what about people for different reasons, religious reasons and other reasons, who might say, well, now I really don't want to do that. You know, we do that with food, we do it with different things. People who would not, for whatever reason, want to do it now. Do we force them to take it?
Force them to take it. If they're going to enter your borders, make sure it is done. Because right now, they're even having a different kind of thing, I understand, a different type, I should say, of the sickness up in England.
Yep, which is here now, apparently.
Well, if it's here, that's where it came from.
Well, where are our planes coming from? Anywhere else?
They're coming from other places.
So they could come from other places too. I mean,
yeah, but are there complaints about it other places? I only just heard about it in the States 2 days ago.
Yeah. Well, reports indicated, you know, we got it in the States, in the UK. They call it UK strain, the South African strain. It was reported that it was in Jamaica as well. Let me ask of you, what is your perspective? So we have a report that, you know, today we had 5,000 tests and, you know, 100 were positive, or we have only one positive. Should we, when we're publishing that, indicate it's a traveler, all right? So we tell people it's a traveler in isolation, okay? But should we then go further and say, well, it's a traveler coming from this particular place? Should we say it's a traveler, you know, between the age of X and Y, male or so on? To what extent should we give information, not to identify the person sufficiently, you know, but should we at least say where they're coming from, or do you think that's not important?
That's what they should do. The person arrived here at a certain date or something, they don't have to give direct time.
Right, okay.
And they came here and it was proven that they had it. And they came, Leicester, they came with some people saying they didn't have it. And when they test them, then they come to find out that they really have it.
Yeah. It's it is unfortunate, because I think it makes it hard for even people that we think are otherwise reasonable, rational, intelligent, you know, law-abiding, decent people. Sometimes just in their reading and they're trying to, you know, make sense of everything, seem to be confused. You know, for instance, you know, how would one respond if in a household of two people, one person is testing positive for it, and the other, let's say the spouse, they interact, you know, as spouses do. You know, in this case, sometimes they actually get along and talk. I attempted a joke there. But the other always tests negative. I mean, you know, is
right,
that...
But make sure the two of you are in the same place.
Right.
And even get someone protected, come and take a test so often, or whatever time you're limited to being, or you have it. You understand what I'm getting at?
Yes, sir.
Say, let's say your wife had it then, and you were there at a certain time. They come and test the wife, and then they test you same time.
Right.
And see if you're coming down with it, or if you have it, whatever.
Right. And you would probably, I mean, I don't want to say this irresponsible, but you would probably think that there's a high chance that if one has it, say one spouse has it, that the other would probably get it as well, if they're interacting, you know, sharing the same space and the like, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Especially when they're so close, right in one place.
Right.
And it is such a How should I put it?
Is it contagious, right? I mean,
contagious.
Yeah.
I can't help it.
No.
I can't remember the words. Okay.
You like many of us, sir. You know, it happens.
It's due to sometimes words just take a while before it come back to me.
That's okay, sir. I don't want to be impatient, and if I can help.
It's due to the damage in my head. I can't help it.
That's okay too. It could be, you know, having to listen to politicians for too long. I'm just kidding.
You wouldn't listen to me.
Yes, sir.
That reader goes and you just told the truth. You wouldn't listen to me if I wasn't there. Okay. Anyway, I said that
yes, sir.
very likely they are going to get it.
Yep.
Even if it's brothers and sisters and they're up in one place and one have it, that could be cousins, whatever it is.
Yeah. I want to use a spouse because there would be expectations of Yes, sir. Yes,
I understand all of what you're getting at.
Yeah, yes.
Everybody else does.
Maybe not.
Well, I understand what you're getting at.
There you go, sir.
But it does not have to be that way. You can still be in the place, or you can go by somebody and drink after them or something.
Right.
And it's right there in you.
Right. I mean, we see that with people who have, you know, a flu of some sort, you know, co-workers in a space, you know, you travel in the airplane and you come back and, you know, people in short order seem to come down with some sort of bug. So, yeah, it can be that it's easier transmitted. But
yes, sir.
What do we do now then? I mean, so we're in this space, and can you imagine we can now go into a bank? Well, not so much in the Cayman context because we seem to be the exception. But you can go into a bank and you're expected to be masked up, and then you go up to the teller and you say, "Give me some money." And you know, there's no problem with that. I mean, there's a time back when if you went into the bank with the mask on, even with your sunglasses, and you know.
Well, they say if you have the mask on and you're not sick, you are not supposed to be down with the disease.
Yeah.
You can be coming down with it. No one knows.
Well, that's the thing, yeah.
When it hit you, then it might have been that you went there too soon to the bank or to the store or something.
You know, you have to wonder sometimes, you know, because of how things have transpired in the last decades, how we've become, in some cases, justifiably so, you know, distrustful of leadership, you know, whether it's in the church, or whether it's in the politics or in the business or in the community, because of things that have happened that we are aware of, whether in our own land or region or just around the globe. And now, you know, people might find it hard to believe what people are saying, you know, simply because of the positions they have or the glint in their eye sometimes. You know, you look at some people and what they say, you know, you never thought that I wouldn't touch you with a 6-foot pole could be true. And now it seems to be.
And sometimes think that they should come out and say and tell the truth, they won't either.
Yeah, that's the bad part.
That's the part about it. When they tell you, oh, that's fine, next day is a different problem.
Yeah, they lie right to your face, huh?
Well, I ain't afraid to say it, and I said it, not you.
No, well, you know what? I'm glad that you did, because I'm sure many people have thought the same, and it doesn't matter whether we're talking about discussions here or whether we're talking about, you know, discussions elsewhere. We're probably, have a healthy dose of skepticism.
Yeah. It keeps you from getting into politism.
All right. Well, I hope you you continue to share your thoughts, and maybe if not, you know, encourage others who would want to maybe venture into the vein of public service as well.
Well, I said the chief medical officer should put that out there to the governor and to the airline department and tell them things got to be done. Make sure it is done. Otherwise, that's it. I don't care whether it's family or friend. It could be my family. If they're coming down with it, stay out there till it's over. Where are you coming from?
Yeah, I hear you, man.
Okay.
And
one last thing.
Yes, sir.
Moses and Juliana, get this road lines painted up here with this white thing. People can't hardly see some of them wearing out. Come, politics is soon done. That don't say no going back. Moses, I want you to go back to the premier. Moses, Colonel Premier. I have spoken.
Thank you, sir.
Don't make this man trouble you again, because trouble coming.
You just go be yourself now. All right, sir. Thank you so much for that call, and you know, I respect, you know, his public appeal for the safety of our road users, and sometimes, you know, you can see how even even on days, especially when it's a bit of a rain, if roads aren't properly marked, how it may be difficult. It's not easy, to maybe find the resources, whether the funds, the actual paint that you need, or even the people. But in this instance, I know that we have a strong commitment to public safety, and it's probably just a matter of logistics and timing. And I'm confident, that will be addressed, because I think it'll be beneficial, and not just on the BRAC, but through other roads as well. But in the interim, and certainly thereafter, we as road users, if we use the road, we may be very comfortable with the road, but maybe we need to be a little bit more cautious and considerate, and take perspective that maybe the roads aren't as properly marked as we would like. Just because we know, perhaps there's a new road user or a less experienced one. But even if they're all as good as you or better, if we're all a little bit more considerate, cautious, and careful, then perhaps it will be a lot safer. And that applies, on the straightest and best of roads to the most congested and traffic isn't going anywhere, to our neighborhoods. You would look at, the West Bay Road on the south part of it before it's interrupted by the hotel. It's a 25-mile-an-hour zone. Beyond that, it's still 40. Going into West Bay proper, into the school, we got a 30-mile-an-hour zone. Into some neighborhoods, 30. But yet, on a part of West Bay Road, it's, 25. Well, if it's safe in that area, should we look at safety in other aspects? Again, it comes down to perspective. Is it about protecting people, or is it about political pandering? Well, who knows? 8949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. It's some open line, and you may just be so exhausted from all of the weekend's activities. You may be like me, trying desperately to put forward a good foot, because there's so much weight on you. There are many of us who, on one vein, were called to celebrate, great occasions, from weddings to birthdays, and almost in the same breath, we have to mourn the loss of loved ones. And so, like me and others, how do you draw alongside that close friend who has experienced one or the other, or both simultaneously? It's a trying time indeed. I think this is where we're called to be people of stature, people for whom integrity, honesty is paramount. But perhaps we've seen such an example that, to the victor go the spoils, and it's not necessarily that it was a honorable fight. It was just about, he who has the gun makes the rule, as opposed to what is truly the golden rule. Well, 949-8037. We're going to pause shortly, take a quick break. We do normally have a guest schedule, but again, things transpire and schedules change, and so we have opportunity to engage our listeners as we invite you to be a part of a discussion. Now, Mr. Dolan alluded to it. Some of us absolutely just get excited about it. This year, in short order, we're going to go, God's willing, to the elections, and we may think we know who is going to be contesting a seat. We have nominations not that long from now. We had a voters' drive that seemingly was very, very successful, in the sense that it got a number of new voters potentially to be added to the electoral list. When we come back from the break, you might want to weigh in and share your thoughts with us about that whole thing. You may believe a particular thing might occur. Well, if you want to get into that discussion, more than happy to engage you. If there's something else that you want to talk about, well, listen, it's all yours. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman News.
The final in 3 days of honoring Cayman seafaring heroes wrapped up today.
Our seafaring heroes, both past and present, have built a legacy for us today that we must acknowledge and be grateful for.
The Cabinet has decided to name a new national hero, Mrs. Leela McTaggart Ross Shire.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you. Are you aware of the performance of your pension plan? The Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan provides quarterly fund fact sheets for our members to stay informed with the plan's performance. For the year ended August 31st, various life cycle funds provided returns between 9.2% and 16.5%, and our all-in expense ratio is currently the lowest it's ever been, a record low at 0.72%. Visit chamberpension.ky to review our fund fact sheets. You can see the performance as far back as 10 years. Remember that pensions are a longer-term investment strategy. Focus on the long term rather than the short-term returns. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan continues to perform for you.
Speak up at the polls this general election.
On May 26, 2021, do the right thing. Exercise your democratic right and vote. A public service announcement from your number one community station, Radio Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for sharing with us. And join us. Susan's over there. I said at the start of the program, if it's going to be just the two of us, is it grammatically correct to say me and Susan, Susan and me, Susan and I, and maybe you will give me that language lesson from that perspective, because sometimes they say it's one is correct in one context and the other in another. Who worries about the predicate and the pejorative and all the like? 949-8037 or toll free at 1-800-534-8255. And maybe you might want to start to speculate relative to the political landscape, but some of the potential people who are out and about or may come out, or how it may play out. I never know. Always interesting to hear. Perhaps we are so polite that we don't necessarily engage publicly in some of these things that we are so willingly, doing in the company of friends and family. 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255, or you can WhatsApp 925-3261, or likewise, you can, send us your thoughts via a voice note on our WhatsApp, or you can type it up and send it across. You might even be so adept at it that you can do text to speech, and it'll come across. Just be mindful though, some words like the bags they say in the airports when we used to travel, many bags look alike. Well, one word might be interpreted as another, so check it first before you send it across. You never know what that might say, when you read it over. But the toll-free line is there if you want to call us on that, or you can dial 949-8037. Now, with that, how many of us had an opportunity to either go in person because we had a family member or we were supportive of someone else who was one of the awardees, whether it was, at any of the three venues, maybe you one of the few who got to attend, all three or two of them. What do you think of some of the announcements relative to the renaming of Harbour Drive, for instance, the latest unveiling of our national hero, the perspective that we're going to take the Tower Building site and redevelop it. Now, there are many who feel that those spaces, and I sort of alluded to it earlier, that we have, for some, quickly recognize that our jurisdiction doesn't necessarily have that many public spaces, parks and the like. We travel to larger cities and we see it. Now, are we also cognizant of the idea that in many spaces, as they develop their lands, that they're conscious that as they go, with denser developments, higher, taller, bigger buildings, that it could and is affecting the surrounding sort of vistas of the existing structures. It's blocking the light and the like for others that could, impact the flora and fauna. It could encourage, other species to grow that like more shade, or it could hinder the growth of other species. The idea that as we redevelop, does it have to be bigger and taller and more encompassing, or can we consider the human space? Where can we go, for instance, and sit and take lunch? Perhaps go and have a chat with a friend. Perhaps our children can go and play. And not just the shade and the shelter of what the public space could offer, but maybe the venue in and of itself could be a space to celebrate. Perhaps now where seemingly at some point, outdoor spaces, take restaurants for instance, you can't dine inside at one point, but outdoor spaces. Well, if we have more, accessible and larger outdoor spaces, could that encourage, greater congregation in a sense that is safer? Now, if you got a piece of property and you develop it and you put 100 stories or 10 stories on it, maybe it's a, financially a very lucrative investment. But what does it do long term? We look at 7 Mile Beach, for instance, and we're seeing, many of the condos that are not that old. They certainly seem to be, structurally sound. 3 stories, and they're going to come down and they're going to go 10, 12, 15 stories, whatever the height is. Now, a good financial return for those who are involved, but how does it impact the rest of us? And if you look at, that small little space between West Bay and Georgetown, and if the large, tall structures are on the coastline, well, what does that do for property values for those that are, inland, sort of east of that? What does it do for the view and the potential impact on the coastline as well as others? So if you were to sort of draw yourself a pyramid, would it be better that the taller structures were, near the middle, and then they gradually stepped down as we get to, the coastline, whether on the west side along the beach or on the east side along the North Sound? Is it too late for that? Is it that our perspective is about let's make as much money because the world mightn't last much longer, or they who are making the decisions mightn't be in a position to influence the outcomes? Is it, as it should be, consideration of the impact and the cost and consequence to the greater good? Hey, we can speculate, if we're not there and fully aware of all the considerations. It could be because we're not there, we may have a more objective perspective. Well, we never know. But what we do know is we want to hear from you, and we want you to share a thought relative to what you see happening. 8949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. Or you can, perhaps share your perspective with us on our WhatsApp, whether you are willing to record a voice note otherwise, 925-3261. And if the toll-free line doesn't work, well, give us a shout on 949-8037. And if for some reason you find like some of you have messaged earlier, for whatever reason, sometimes our phones aren't connected up, well, try this number, 949-6990, and make that, be a number that you use frequently to send in your requests, whether you do it by WhatsApp or you just want to call and get to our on-air talent. And you'll maybe not able to remember the song, and you might prefer a phone call versus some other less personal way of communicating. Well, 949-6990 is a request line to ask about the song. But likewise, if you're not able to get through on the other numbers, well, do so now. Now, had a very interesting discussion with 2 individuals over the weekend, and I was trying to honestly encourage them to come and sit and to chat from the perspective that, one, being at a space now in life where you see things differently, and the other being where everything ahead can only get better. And as they were chatting, there was the optimism and the energy and the enthusiasm of one, sort of being tempered by a jaded, almost difficult perspective of the realities as presented. And it isn't about being, having a strong sense of skepticism, but it's about looking at things and recognizing the realities as was relayed, and coming to the conclusion that anything and almost everything that transpires, there's always a fait accompli, as she shared. I thought, wow, interesting. Let's go to the phones though. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sterling Dwayne.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you today?
I'm okay.
Good to hear from you, man. It's really always a pleasure.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be a pleasure today, but...
always is, man. Go right ahead.
Well, you're just speaking about the development or the destruction of the island, shall I say?
Yep.
In my opinion.
Okay.
Out front, where is the politicians into this situation that we're going through? Is it any piece of land that can be reserved, or any part of the coastal area, shall I say? 7 Mile Beach is, to me, it's history. It's gone. And many more think like me, and that is a fact. It's overdeveloped, and now the big deal is, in my opinion, again, come to destroy the North Coast, Bacchus Beach. I see signs going up without even permission about pre-selling things. What's happening to this place? Where is the planning department? I thought you would have, and it should be, that you have to get permission to put up a sign. Okay? We don't have, in my opinion, I'm sorry. If it's anyone, they have to come forward and speak now or forever keep your peace. I don't hear anybody talking about this enormous amount of development that is going through in the Cayman Islands. A little island like this, like less than 100 square miles. What are we doing to this place? All your lovely forest land is being demolished and filling up with marl. And all you can see is signs about apartments and condos and how much they cost and so forth and so on. You know what's going to happen? We're going to live to see it, and this is not a wish, this is a reality. We are creating into this little island one of the most undesirable destinations that we will have. Why are these people allowed to come in here and just buy a piece of property and go hell-bent the developer or destroy it for the sake of money? Some people have more money than they could spend in 10 generations, and they're still not satisfied. Okay? And who's speaking about it? Tell me up front. Anybody speaking about it? No. Because I got a nice house and maybe $1 million or $2 million in the bank and whatever, I couldn't care less. And the poor people that we have, the poor little fishermen, they're looking at them with binoculars and all sorts, see if they're getting an extra lobster or extra crab or something, so they can put them northward, right? What's happening here? Where's all of these big mouth politicians that a little soon now you're going to hear them making their big boasts in the public and having their meeting about what they're doing? What are they doing? Come forward and show us. Belittling the little guys, because what they're suffering from is what we call rejection. That's what's happening. These little guys rejected from the society. They're not good enough anymore to be with us, so we look down on top of them, even our own Caymanians, and then what we expect in the foreign people. And these people coming in here, my friend, they, in my opinion, a lot of them, they are ruthless people. They are ruthless people coming in here. So it doesn't make any difference who you are. Once you got the money to buy a condo or whatever apartment, come on, come forward. And all of this stuff needs to be screened. We are taking in so much undesirables onto this country. In Caymanians now, we are a voice crying in the wilderness, my friend. You know, that's what we are. Okay? Who's saying anything about it? When election time comes just in Christmas, you're going to give me a turkey or a piece of pork or some turtle meat or something? I hope they never, ever think about coming my way. And I think they got a message already. So this is ridiculous, my friend. What's going on here? Absolutely ridiculous and unacceptable. But it takes more than one to fight the battle. All right?
Yes, sir.
All right, I got to go because I got something else doing, so we'll talk to you later.
Talk to you later on. Thank you, too. And let's go to the other line. Good afternoon. Thank you for calling. Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, Sterling.
How are you today?
I'm fine, and you?
I'm blessed, man. Honestly, very thankful,
Yeah, we blessed, boy.
Amen.
But you know what, Sterling? It makes me feel so sad sometimes. I see so much development. I know it's probably, opening jobs for people and things, but, I'm worried about the future Caymanian.
Yeah.
Because the older one, they had where to go, but now I wonder, if there's anywhere Caymanian can go.
Yeah.
And what, the future real Caymanian, what will they do in their own country? I'm not putting down nobody or trying, because sometimes you don't know, but so much expensive building is putting up, and those Caymanians will be able to buy any. I don't know.
Well, as I listen to you, I hear the concern that maybe we're not thinking enough about the future generations, but also our own future.
And the young people, Caymanian that have land to sell, maybe they need, I don't know why they say, but I hope they're not selling out all their land and leaving some of the land for their generation to come. I don't know.
Yeah, but then too, right? I hear your concern, but is it a question that, and I say this without fully, sort of vetting it properly, but is this then where, quote unquote, the politicians and the public policy needs to be part of the public discussion as to what the future Cayman landscape looks like relative to home ownership and land ownership, and to maintain that sense of society, safe, secure, stable society. From what you're sharing, it could be that, like many places, you find the people not able to own property if they so choose, not be able to live because it's expensive, not be able to venture out because they feel unsafe. Then it really is that progress and success.
I don't know.
It's a challenge, huh?
Yeah, it's a challenge, but I always think about it, I always think about it and wonder, I always say too, people wonder what will happen to the future Caymanian, if they will be living off handout or what, I don't know.
Yeah. I hear your burden, I mean, your heart is obviously heavily laden with these concerns, but as you meditate and pray, what sort of insight have you get, Amy? Where do you see this thing going?
Well, I see so many buildings going up, and when you ask million this, million that, million the other, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. And in the workplace, who is getting benefits from the job and things? I don't know. I don't want to be, trying for people to think that I'm against anyone, but I just.
No, I think if people are listening to you clearly, they would understand that your heart is burdened for what the future holds for us. And if I'm hearing what you're saying, you're asking us to come together to look beyond just whatever money we'll be making now off or whatever it is we're doing, and to see whether that's going to take us through to the future where, we're living as a people with a sense of love and respect and harmony.
Because not everyone can go to university. I'm praying to go to the university and do this and do that, and I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's probably. But maybe it's an opportunity that lies ahead, But they say with every with every day, if there's a sense of hope and prayer, we might be able to find the positive and the good and make something productive. Right?
God is my second country. So, I have to.
Yeah.
Every night I pray for my country, and I pray for this country too.
Well, thank you for that, man. It's what sustains us, all right?
Yeah.
All right. But talk to you very soon. Anything else you want to share with us?
Something else.
Go right ahead.
I gone so deep down.
Yeah, I heard, honestly, it's unfortunate in a sense that, such is the weight of the burdens that we bear, but it's also, in a sense, helpful to know that there are others who likewise feel such a love and such a concern. And maybe it'll cause more of us to start to think in a more unselfish way.
And Sterling, I went with my daughter and her babies, them, and her husband to the park, to the garden, botanical garden, and I just hope that it's so beautiful down there.
It is.
I've been saying, that they could have, but I was saying maybe where the glass house is, but when I realized there is very, very small, to the building up there, and that is very nice for the young kids, to go there. And maybe, I don't know if someone could build a park so that when you get old and you don't have nowhere to go, you go and sit down there and meet friends and things like that, because we don't have much places. I'm not putting down Cayman, because Cayman is a very thriving country from long time, not to the day.
Right.
And it's a good country, but I see back home we have a lot of parks where you could go and things like that. I feel like we are poorer than here.
Well,
I don't know. Somebody should, if they have the opportunity and the way and the land to do it, to make a park where you don't have to go away out. But out there is so nice. Botanical Park is so nice, and it's coming to come.
Yep.
And I hope with the little money that they're collecting, I think they're doing a very good job out there, and they should keep on adding things out there. It's like in Miami.
Yeah, man.
I was surprised Sunday when I went there, because years ago I've been there with my kids.
Yeah, man. I'm glad that you went. I mean, as I was speaking to Miss Berner and on it Thursday, was it? Feels like one day runs into the next. The idea that there was a Founder Fun Day, and as you shared, years could pass before you realize that you haven't been. But then, in the absence of having more public spaces like that, where do we measure our quality of life and our true wealth? Now, the Tower Building is a site that Mr. Bush some time back ago had proposed, a bell tower and the like. We know that now there's, as we just announced, development or proposed redevelopment of the site now for, for want of a better word, a park as it were. But is there more that we can do so that it's not an edifice for some political figure or some architectural monstrosity, or they may call it a masterpiece, onto the gods themselves? How do we make it so that it's a space that you go and you enjoy? As I said, that a message came through saying, take for instance our beaches. Not only can we sort of not see the beaches anymore, but we can't even seem to get to the beaches. So can you imagine if you were able to walk along the beach, you're physically able to do so? That's miles and miles of sort of public open space, but then that's been limited as well. So what you're sharing now, is it that we're missing the boat once again in terms of accessible, safe, secure, clean outdoor spaces for our people to go and enjoy?
If they, like how they was collecting, I'm sure they would get paid back. If they collect money to go into it, I'm sure they would get pay back for the expense that they spend. And a couple of years ago, I remember me and my sister was walking in South Sound, and it was on the seaside, but there's a lot of rock and things. When I look, I see this lady, this dog came out at us, and we wasn't in nobody's yard or anything. We had to turn back.
Yeah, man. That's sort of the fact that you mentioned, just reminds me again of how many times people have shared that their evening walk with their children, their exercise, their bike ride, and they're just a little out for fresh air in their own neighborhoods or other places where dogs are off leash, they're not muzzled, Sometimes they're not even, as you said, not even from that area, but they're just roaming freely. But there are times when people too, the dogs are with them, but they're not controlling their dogs. They don't have them properly leashed, muzzle. It can affect your safety, your sanity, your security.
Yeah.
Quality of life issues that we ignore, huh? Yeah. Well, I appreciate what you shared. And let's stay positive, right? But let's not be unwilling to call people, to task and to account. All right?
Yeah. All right. I really hope someone who could afford it and who can do it, make another park and where it access, and they could have where, like those little houses where they could have people like on Sunday and Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
They could sell food and people could take out their children. Mm-hmm. This park every Sunday and Saturday. That would be so nice.
Yeah, man. But as you said that, let me take license now and, let's see what wrath I would incur. See who's stupid enough to take a good idea and beat you up for it. But there is, increasingly much public lands available as owned by the people. And seemingly over the years, we've taken a task to, getting rid of our public lands, right? But there's a small piece of property. There may be some who would consider it to be in dispute to some extent. But according to my last check of the land register and the properties that were listed on the public list, so to speak, near, I call it the Salt Creek area, so Yacht Club and the like. There's a property of land there, maybe approaching close to 100 acres or so of coastline. And I always looked at that property and thought, what a wonderful space for something like you're saying. It could be used and developed for the benefit of the people in many ways, educational as well as recreational. Now, it would be unfortunate if such a property was sold, and even if we made millions and billions of dollars off it. It would even be more unfortunate if it was, as the proposal was recently, to give it consideration that it was, quote unquote, as a protected area that hinders the country's ability to develop it to the benefit of the country. Now, this is where maybe when we do these things, we don't think of future generations. We think of the, that personal little thing that we would gain from it, whether it's money, monetary reward, or otherwise. I don't know. We'll see how it goes, right?
And then people wouldn't have to be paying. If we have all of those things here in Cayman, we wouldn't have to be traveling, going to Miami. And you see how it is, as my sister would say, this Conaris. No, this Condemnia. No, you can't travel nowhere. You have where to go.
Yeah.
That would be so beautiful. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, man. You know what? You motivated me again to consider something else. And I appreciate that. Maybe there'll be more of us who they'll take advantage of the political landscape now and try to feather their nests, or they may be so empowered and emboldened to do something right for a change. All right.
Yep. Okay then, Sterling. Nice talking to you.
Always a pleasure listening to you, and thanks for the company. Have a blessed afternoon.
Lieta.
Yeah. Adios. Huh? This is an amazing, remarkable place with some wonderful people, and there are things that transpire as you sort of get out of bed that puts your day in a better mood. Sometimes it doesn't, but when it's that things happen that you get to look forward to, wow, end of the work day, I'll get to do this, or wow, one more sleep and I'll wake to this. Be positive. It helps you to have a better perspective. Well, let's pause and take a break. When we come back from the headline news, we want you to be a part of our discussion as we invite you to call us 949-8037 1-800-534-8255. If you're listening and you don't feel bold enough yet to call as a first-time caller, but maybe you've WhatsApp before but never for the show, well, it'd be good to know if you were there, and just give us a shout just for the encouragement. Even the greatest of spirits sometimes need to be enlightened. Let's pause and take a break. When we come back, more talk today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have on islands.
Your voice, your choice.
It is in the best interest of the people of these islands.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. The RCIPS Financial Crime Investigation Unit has commenced investigations based on complaints received of fraudulent activity reported across social media platforms, where it is alleged that a person has taken payment for shutter and screen installation works which were never completed. Any persons who have been victim of this alleged fraudulent activity is asked to make direct contact with the RCIPS and call 949-8797. In international news, the Biden administration has said it will seek to push forward a plan to make anti-slavery activist Harriet Tubman the face of a new $20 bill. The U.S. Treasury said she would replace former President Andrew Jackson, a slave owner. The effort was delayed under former President Donald Trump, who branded it pure political correctness. More than 180 people were arrested in 10 Dutch cities as protesters defying a curfew clashed with riot police for a third night running. Shops in Rotterdam were looted and police used water cannons as rioters resisted latest COVID restrictions. The UK government has decided to postpone the environmental bill. It says ministers are still committed to the bill, but the delay will make it harder for the government to hit targets to improve water, reduce waste, and protect wildlife, campaigners say. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Your voice, your choice, your radio.
Miller's Plumbing, with over 47 years of experience. They will get the job done for you on time, the first time. Call them at 949-4709 for a free estimate. Miller's Plumbing, a proud sponsor of Radio Cayman's 7 a.m. weather update.
It's the plumber. I've come to fix the sink.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us as we invite you to be a part of a discussion here on Open Line, segment of our Talk Today program at 949-8037 or toll free at 1-800-534-8255. You want to WhatsApp your thoughts, 925-3261. Well, either way, do your thing. Now, quickly during the break, message came through. Person was referencing the conversation earlier with the lady and commended her for her thoughts and, just shared two things. One was, said to her, just continue to cast her burdens as she has, don't try to carry the weight of the world on her shoulders. And then secondly, say that, her comments reminded her of how we seem to displace people, how we seem to, and this was my interpretation. So hopefully I didn't misread, but seem to, have a sense of discrimination in certain quarters. And I say it as my interpretation because they reference the notion that seemingly, crimes committed alongside my beach, for instance, carry a heavier penalty and sentence than the same crime committed elsewhere. Now, the person did continue with saying that, we should, without question, ensure that people understand that we have great sense of value, respect, and appreciation for those who come, to visit our shores. We want them to be safe. But the person continues to say, but don't we all want that for, all who live and work here? For those of us who go out, in evenings for a bit of entertainment or for exercise, do we not want to be safe? If we're, taking our garbage out, or if we're in our yards, or if we're just in our homes, do we not want to know that if someone, decides that they're going to come in and commit some crime, that the same level of punishment, the same level of rigor, the same level of, determined effort to apprehend the offenders will be, whether it's for the visitor or whether it's for the person who's been here forever. Now, there was another aspect to the conversation that, as I read it, certainly speaks to a political perspective, and with great respect, not just to the person or to the fact that I may misconstrue what is typed in as I read it, but to be somewhat sensitive to the situation. Perhaps I won't say that, but suffice it to say that the inference is that sometimes politicians get ahead of themselves and trying to placate and pacify certain quarters, believing that this is the thing to do, when in the ill effect and the negative impact is sometimes not appreciated. But I share that to ask you, do you think that that's part of the challenge that we face, that when we'll set about public policy or making and amending laws, or we're doing, perhaps not doing other things, that we don't look at it objectively and impartially, that we look at it because we've been lobbied to do so, we've been paid to do so. Maybe it's the passage of certain laws, maybe it's the projects that we take in place, maybe it's not even in the politics, maybe it's just in our own lives. How objective and impartial do you think we are? And I say that because, as I read through what the person shared and commenting on the lady's points, that we're not looking at public spaces in a way that it could bring greater value, improve the quality of life for all of us. For instance, the message read that here we are, looking at our beaches, but not necessarily being able to enjoy them. Or we look at public spaces and the undeveloped lands, whether it's Barkas or the place, a place that many of us enjoy. For some of us, it's a place that we're perhaps either fearful to go, we've been advised not to go. Now, we may be looking at it and seeing how it's already being developed, or the proposals to develop it, and will that make it not just inaccessible to many, but perhaps destroy what is there? And maybe it is something that should be developed, but maybe not this year, maybe not next year, maybe not 10 years from now, maybe it's in 100 years from now. Are we prepared to make the sacrifice? And if it isn't developed now, for whatever reason, is there a cost to the private landowners? And if there is that a cost that perhaps we should help to defray? Now, it has to be more than just a great social conscience and commitment to the public good. Where is the mantra, the mindset, the ethos of our society, of a political directorate to look at those things? Well, your thoughts. 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255, or you can WhatsApp 925-3261. Now, the other quick sort of message that came through that I read, I talked about there being this foreboding spirit of confusion that sort of, abound, and I wonder to what extent that is true, and to what extent it may be affecting you. Well, let us know. 949-8037, 1-800-534-TALK, or WhatsApp 925-3261. And then as we look at where the week sort of takes us, is it a case where for many of us, it isn't that tomorrow brings great promise, as it should. It's that tomorrow is just another stark realization that it's just going to be a magnified, day like today, which was, even worse than the day before. Now, if you find yourself in that space, well, what do you do? And you may ask, well, what can you do? Well, please, if you're at a place where your mental sort of strain seems unbearable, as Dr. Alexandra Borden has shared with us many times, there are some wonderful, free, competent, professional, confidential sources and resources available to us. Whether you do it through the Counseling Center, or whether you do it through your Employee Assistance Program, or whether you access, any of the facilities at HSA or the private physicians, whether the insurance covers it or not, don't dismiss the importance of the overall health and well-being. 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255, or your WhatsApp 925-3261. As we invite you to be a part of the discussion, we'll go to our phones and take the call. Good afternoon, welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hey, my friend. Good afternoon, man. How are you?
Pretty good, man. Just listening in on the last bit of the show. I didn't get a chance to listen earlier, but it seems like you can use some company.
Yeah, man.
Call in and
thank you, man.
And then we can get the conversation started.
Yeah, man. You see, this would be good where, if you were hosting the show, it would be always good conversation, man. I could go fishing.
I don't know about all that, but
I got bait.
I like being on outside.
Why, me too, but not enough times. And sometimes outside might get me inside.
Yeah, sometimes it's better to be a kingmaker than a king.
Not true. Maybe sometimes you just be hit the king, But then that's
that too. But no, I just thought I would call in to kind of, spark up a conversation. Obviously, we know that this is election season, and we know that we're going to see, some folks with some faces, some new ideas, some new manifestos, different things.
Yeah, man.
Obviously, it's always encouraging that other people want to get involved. But yeah, it's also interesting to see that, when we have certain mechanisms of our society working well, then we turn around and we see where those things get abandoned because of the direction in which the interest changes. So I just think that with this political season that, we pay close attention to what it is the person is saying. We ask important questions. We never have all the right questions, and they never have all the right answers, I'm sure of it, but we need to at least make sure that those who we select to represent us have satisfied our questions and our our curiosity as to what they're going to do, why they're going to do it. I think that there is a lot of people who have a pretty good handle on what the issues are and what need to be done. Now, how many persons that are willing to run for election that is actually capable or able or understand how it is, what it takes to champion these things? Because if we look at the common denominator in every household, we can all agree or disagree that it's the cost of living.
Yeah, man. I mean, I had if you're inclined, two things to ask of you. One is what are some of those questions that as voters we should be asking?
Well, I would believe that it would be every individual person have their own set of reasons for asking certain questions. Because I'm certainly, I mean, don't get me wrong, it should be a standard question for anybody to say, hey, so what are you going to do to improve the current environment that we have where, Caymanians are being marginalized, job opportunities are not as available as they are to certain people? Why, these type of things should be pretty much standard. But then again, you have other individuals who have their own personal opinion or idea of what a good government should look like. So the questions may vary, but for me, it's this. And regardless if it was my son or my brother, right, who are the two people that I'm closest with, I would ask the question, okay, you know what the current situation is now. We are very well aware of that because we live in it. And we all can agree that we need some improvement. We need to ensure that there's some level of continuity amongst Caymanians, especially the young entrepreneurs. And we know that the cost of living is high, and we know that we all shop and pump gas at the same places, right? So we need to ensure that the persons who are putting themselves forward for election are not only aware of these things, but are willing to champion those things as a part of their platform. And when they get in, to actually make sure that these are the things that they set out to accomplish, regardless of what the political agenda is of the day. Because, I understand that if you're not a part of the majority of the government who forms all the ministerial positions, I understand that it's very hard to get anything done on the opposite side of the aisle. I get that. But it still doesn't prevent you from constantly moving motions and trying your best to get what you think is best, and that's in the best interest of the country and the people, and particularly your constituents. Whether or not you are successful at doing it or not, You need to consistently have that conversation and put forward those ideas and those motions constantly on a regular basis and be heard. Don't be just somebody who decide that you're gonna chicken out because you think it's too much work or that the government is going to vote it down anyway. I mean, we've seen that in the most recent times with the Legal Practitioners Bill. There were 75 suggested amendments, none of which was argued by the opposition, simply because the opposition took it upon themselves to decide, oh, well, it was going to just get voted down anyway, so it didn't make any sense to argue those amendments. But I beg to differ, because at least it would have went down in the Hansard where you argued each one of those amendments. The government then would have to then debate you as to why they're not putting those amendments in place, and it would be a matter of record moving forward. So we need people who have a firm grip onto what the fundamental issues are that are affecting the continuity and the way of life for Caymanian people. We need to stop being apologetic when we thinking about a policy that is going to create a better playing field for Caymanians. We need to stop apologizing before we have taken action, and as we should take into consideration every facet of what it is we're going to do and every aspect of the impacts of what we do will have. We need to bear in mind that there are lives at stake. There are people, social ability and physical ability to participate in this environment. All of these things are at stake. And that under no circumstances should we waver away from creating a sustainable environment for everybody in Cayman. Sterling, it's okay for us to do as much as we can for this thing, but while we're doing that, we need to also be inclusive of the things that are fundamentally affecting people's way of life. How can you honestly look in the face of a hard-working person, probably with 2 jobs, and tell them that you don't understand why they can't afford to pay their bills? It's very simple. It's the cost of living. It's the things in which he has to spend his money on by compulsory.
Yeah, man. If you have time and you wish to, there's a second thing I want to ask, but we want to take the break. Are you able to hang on? Okay. And this is what I want to ask of you, right? How do we know that we're not being duped by either those that are there now and seeking re-election or those that want to get there, whether they were there before or not? So it's going to be a lot of promises, a lot of fanfare. It's a carnival, it's a circus. It's part of a landscape and expectation of entertainment and so on, right? So how do we ensure that we're not being, I use the word duped, maybe there's a better word. Could we maybe think about that and then after the break talk about it when we come back?
Absolutely.
Perfect. All right, let's pause and take a break. And when we come back, I want to hear the answers too.
Radio Cayman Super Jam Show, the #1 drive time entertainment show on your radio. Enjoy your mix of pop, hip-hop, dancehall, urban gospel. The Super Jam Show is
brought to you by these kind sponsors.
The Cayman Islands Football Association, CIFA, building a better future for Cayman football.
Cayman Insurance Center. Don't take chances with your family's future.
The University of the West Indies Open Campus.
Find your place in the Cayman dream today. The UWI Open Campus, on-site, online, and on demand.
Visit open.uwi.edu. Call them today at 946-8322. Train with Dre. Train with Dre's lunch weight loss program. Get your meals right and lose weight today. No excuses, no gimmicks. Call Dre today at 928-3420.
The Super Jam on Radio Cayman.
Blue Marlin Restaurant. Takeout on Eastern Avenue. Delivery and catering.
Food is awesome.
Call 947-4752 to place your order.
The #1 drive time entertainment show on your radio.
Attention, displaced Caymanian tourism workers. The Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport is reopening registration for the tourism stipend to assist Caymanians who work in the tourism sector and have lost their employment due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Registration will take place until Friday, 29 January. To apply, visit stipend.ourcayman.ky.
Now you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere.
Everywhere.
Can you hear me now? Everywhere. Everywhere.
Yes, right from your Android or iPhone. Download the Radio Cayman app now on your Android or iOS phone.
The Radio Cayman app
is where you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere you go.
Everywhere we go.
in the Google Store, the Apple Store, or use the link at www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Yes, now you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome, Mike, and thank you for joining us as we are honored to be able to continue discussion with what we think is not just a very informed caller, but one who has the confidence, the courage, and the conviction to speak publicly. So we'll go back to the phones. Hey, thanks, my friend, for hanging on.
Yeah, man, no problem.
All right.
I gave some thought to your question, and I think that typically our landscape for the political season is where some of those individuals who put themselves forward for election have legitimate portfolios in terms of things that they would like to see happen for the Caymanian people and for the Cayman Islands. I would never venture to say that they don't have legitimate ideas. But what we never seem to take into account as a person who wants to get into politics is the complex web of deception that is hidden. It's proverbial, right? So we speak about it as if it don't exist, knowing very well that it's very real, and that is the political alignment of the things that are prioritized simply based on the lobbyist dollar. And I think Winston Conley is a prime key example. In fact, we should probably write a chapter in a book on his political tenure. And the reason why I say that is because Winston started out as C4C, and his intentions were great. And he had a few good things on the agenda in which he wanted to put forward. So then he teamed up with the then sitting government of the day, which is the PPM, and they promised him, well, if you come across and be a part of us, we'll assist you with your agenda. Now, obviously, when he realized that their agenda was prioritized over his, and that the things in which they had to get done before they can assist him with his is longer than a single term in government. So by the time they would have reached his things on the agenda, if they ever did, it probably would have been 2 or 3 election cycles down the road. So you and I both know that there's no promises or no guarantees in elections. You could get in this term, and the next term you don't. And I think that that's what frustrated Winston. And we got to take our hat off to Winston for identifying the issue and realizing at a very early stage in his political career that this was something he didn't want to be a part of, simply because if you're not doing everything to the tone of their beat, then you're not going to get what you need done. Yeah, go ahead.
So is that part of the challenge then? We hear it as an example. We hear it for justification for the party system. Oh, we don't want this horse trading that's going to take place after the election if you don't know who is going to be your premier, your cabinet, and the like. Is it then that we are selfishly serving the interests of people as opposed to looking at what is best for the country by playing this game of deceit and deception?
Well, I think that the sitting politicians, especially those who boast about being there for so long, have a very firm handle on how the system works and how to manipulate the system, and the kings of the horse trading. I think that the unity government said it better than all. We saw the two rival parties set aside all of their devilish differences and became the common household friendship. Now, one thing I think every Caymanian that is listening, that is interested in politics, or who have paid attention in the last decade or so, they must understand that there is no enemies in politics. Remember that phrase. There is no enemies in politics. And I think that the unity government is the perfect illustration of those sentiments. Now, when we look at the duping, as you may have said, your constituents into voting for you and then you're doing something different. Again, like I said, I think that some of the portfolios are genuine, but obviously some of them are polished in a way to get you to think that they're going to do what's right. Because some of those people who are running, some of us know who they are. They're running with an already fixed agenda to be a part of a fixed system that they have already signed up to. We know that.
Right.
Now, when we look at other politicians, and I say this because obviously I live in the Savannah Newlands area, and I have great interest in that area, and why I say this is that you know how many members of the Savannah Newlands community who have been actively involved in numerous community projects and assisting people over the last 25 years. I can tell you because I was there at the birth of a couple of the committees, which still go on today, which unfortunately we have 2 members now who have declared to run, is using it as a platform for politics. And I'm really disheartened by that because I never wanted to see those community efforts be used for political mileage, and now it's being done by the same people who we look up to within our society. And you see, people always say, "Oh, well, you're saying that because of your politics." No, I'm not running for politics. So let's put that out there right now, plain and simple. I am not running for politics, so I don't have any political agenda. The thing is that when we see a community group that has been effective, right, and has done good work in the community, then some of its core founding members decide to run for politics and then use it as a platform. It's very discouraging, and what it does is it prevents other people who genuinely want to help without any notoriety from getting involved. And again, you know, some people are great community workers, and that's exactly what they should do. And they should always support a government that will be resourceful in getting them the resources to further their efforts and make their efforts, you know, wider and a larger scope. And then you have those people who are policymakers and how to write policy and drive policy and enforce policy. These are the things that we need. Now, not every policy in Cayman is good, but not everyone is bad either. And the ones that are good, we are not enforcing them to a point where Caymanians could reap the benefit. So I think that any politician that has to convince me to be a part of anything remotely to support them, it would have to be where here are the things that they want to do. You need to address the cost of living because that's the common denominator with all of us, rich or poor, black or white. We all have to pay the high cost of living.
So as I listen to that, it would seem that as you were sharing, political expediency has become the order of the day, and the notion that politics makes strange bred fellows. We put aside the differences in order to ensure that the common agenda gets served. With that in mind, then, should we, as we've looked now, I'm not on the face of it any great proponent for term limits because of the sheer size of our electorate and even our jurisdiction.
Yeah. We don't harvest enough people to
Right.
have a limited cycle.
Right. And I always believe that the greatest arbiter should be the voter, right? But if we have politicians that are there for, 3 terms, 4 terms, 5 terms, 6 terms, whatever that amounts to in years, is it then that, like anything, the player might be great, but after season after season after season, the knees and the joints and everything takes a toll. So at age 20, you might be great at a jump shot, but at age 40, you might have to take a few less. Should we?
Yeah. I will say this, Sterling, and with the greatest respect to everybody who's been in politics for more than 10 years. I think that after you've been there for so long, then it's very easy for anyone to summarize whether or not that person deserves another term. Because one, they've been there long enough, and two, they've either been part of the government at some point or haven't. And you weigh in on the things that they accomplished while they were in power. You weigh in, and then you weigh in on the things that they advocated against when they were on the opposition side. So you take those two things and you add it up, and that's where you get your merit from. Because if you look at the person who have been there for 15 and plus years, and then you look at all of the portfolios in which they were in charge of, and then you do a quick analysis, okay, well, what benefit did they do for education? What benefit did they do for culture and development or infrastructure and these things? And if we can't see a reflection of those things still prevalent today, where the system that they put in place is constantly growing and benefiting the Caymanian people and the Caymanian way of life and the economy and all these things, then we have a problem. So, so if you are supporting the problem, then how in the world are you going to be a part of the solution?
Is it then... Okay, go ahead, yeah.
No, I just say that to say this. Is that when a person campaigns on a community effort platform, okay, and I say that only because we see now, and if you're going to declare for politics in the Cayman Islands, then you should be subjected to understanding that there will come criticism, and not criticism just for the sake of criticism, but I'm talking about real, viable questions. All right? How can a person that never participated within the community on any of the events, who lived in this society, in that community, who've been there, drove across all of the events, never attended any of the events for 20 years or plus, then all of a sudden you run for politics because you got a bag of money, you win the first time, then you realize the realization of the sustainability of politics means you got to maintain some level of popularity. So you didn't win the second time, and then all of a sudden now you're driving around neighborhoods, fixing everybody roof and giving them out. Now, I'm not criticizing the help that they give. I need to be clear on that. People in our society generally need help, and I think those who are in a position to help, I commend them for it, and they deserve to be honored for it. I don't have any issues with that.
Right.
But when you are openly and blatantly doing it because you want to be reelected so you could reestablish yourself in a position to then further the agenda in which you weren't able to complete in the last term in which you had, I have a serious issue with that. I have a very serious issue with that because your morals are in the wrong direction. Your moral compass is off by a mile. So I don't understand how you can say, oh, well, I contributed to this event, yet you sat down at the event and was served as opposed to serving people. So for me, if you're going to be a community worker, be a community worker. If you're going to be a patriot for politics, be a patriot for politics. If you're going to be a statesman and a person who champions things for the betterment of the Cayman Islands and its people, I can appreciate that and I can get behind that. But the last thing I'm going to do is support somebody who never said hello to me in 26 years until you decided to run for politics. Then all of a sudden, you're everybody's friend. I can see straight through that, right? So I just want to make sure that the people that are running have the merit, the understanding, the perseverance to consistently fight for the things that they feel that are in the best interest of the people in which they campaigned on their manifestos and their platform. Let that fight be the entire 4 years that you're there, even if you get it done or not. Because I think that those are the qualities that we need within our representations of persons who vying for election. I mean, it's very simple, Sterling. Have you seen any effort? And I'm being very, very, very serious here right now. Yeah, man. I actually closed my eyes when you were just talking then to meditate on something you said, but man, you okay, go ahead, man. Talk to me. I want you to tell me, as a journalist, reporter, radio personality, and if I may have missed it, please point me in the right direction. But I stand to be corrected in anything that I say. Have you seen any piece of legislation in the last 4 years that addressed the cost of living in this island? Have you seen any legislation? Not in a positive way from what you shared. I mean, it's impacted the cost of living without question. But again, you always raise not just timely and poignant, things for us to consider. Where does it take us to? But thanks for your call, man. Anything finally? Well, let me just end with this. Yes, please. I challenge anybody out there who running for politics to address the cost of living if you're successful. And I challenge anybody out there who has to vote for those people to look at their rap sheet, look at the things that they've done, make your decision based on that, and not just because they brought you a towel or fixed your roof or brought you some food or played dominoes in your backyard. Hey, thank you very much, man. And as that caller always leaves us with some pensive, provocative, moments. As you were speaking just then, I had to close my eyes and quickly meditate on something because we're finding ourselves increasingly, and too much is given, much is required, and if it's not now, when? If it's not us, then, who? Well, let's try or endeavor best to be as best as we can, to be as positive as we can. We're not always finding ourselves able to embrace, but be mindful that we can indeed endure. We have the strength of spirit and character. We seek a sense of sobriety. We speak
with a sense of positive, productive, this about our lives. I'm excited about what tomorrow brings. I'm equally excited about, how the evening unfolds, and as the dawn arises, what it will have in store. Let's always look with a jubilant heart. Until tomorrow, my friends, be blessed.
Voice of the Cayman Islands, Radio Cayman.
Shining down from above. We love our